Hello everyone, my name is Dogly. I'm one of the lucky few Kazuha havers from his original banner, and now that his rerun is right around the corner, I'm here to talk to you about the value of Kazuha's Constellations. I was one of the few people who praised Kazuha for his amazing abilities when he was first released, while many other people were busy calling him an inferior Venti. And I've been really pleased to see that over the past year people's opinions on Kazuha have greatly changed. Without a doubt, a ton of new people will be summoning for Kazuha on his rerun, and ultimately I hope this video will give you the information you need to decide if you want to pull for Constellations as well. At C0, Kazuha is an absolutely amazing character, and no Constellations are truly needed for him to be a great support. Despite that, I think Kazuha's Constellations are also really front-loaded, meaning his first few Constellations offer really strong improvements to his kit. Kazuha's first Constellation slightly reduces the cooldown of his elemental skill. If we're talking only about the first part of the Constellation, I personally was able to notice this cooldown reduction when I first activated it, but overall it was a pretty minor improvement and just made Kazuha a bit smoother to play on national and quick swap teams. However, the main selling point of C1 is that every time Kazuha uses his ultimate, he then also resets the cooldown of his skill, allowing him to perform the famous EQE combo. Being able to use 2 elemental skills and 1 burst within the span of only a few seconds drastically improves Kazuha's personal DPS. If you want a main DPS Kazuha, I personally think C1 is incredibly beneficial, if not required. However, for both support and main DPS builds alike, one huge benefit from C1 is that it allows Kazuha to get double the elemental particles. This drastically reduces Kazuha's need for energy recharge, and there are quite a few teams where a C1 Kazuha doesn't really need any additional energy recharge at all. I personally have always believed that other creators have been inflating how much energy recharge Kazuha actually needs, but once he gets C1, it's hard to recommend much energy recharge, if any at all, which then means you can focus on other more valuable substats. Kazuha's second Constellation, on the other hand, massively buffs his support capabilities, turning him into the single best support character in the game. The Constellation itself gives Kazuha 200 extra elemental mastery after using his ultimate, as well as 200 elemental mastery to any teammate who stands in the radius of his ultimate. This means Kazuha can transfer both elemental damage bonus from his C0 abilities and now EM with his C2, which then gives huge damage buffs to basically any non-Geo element teammate. C2 also slightly builds on C1, since Kazuha himself can take advantage of this buff by immediately using an elemental mastery boosted elemental skill for some quick additional swirls. From his original banner, I chose to get my own Kazuha to C2, and I have really been happy with the results that both Constellations have provided for my account. If you have been a mega Primogem saver, I'd recommend both of these Constellations if you have fun playing Kazuha. Kazuha's third Constellation is just a standard one that increases his elemental skill by 3 levels. This does pair nicely with his Constellation 1. However, it should be noted that only the leaping motion of the skill counts as skill damage, whereas the big plunge at the end is actually calculated based off of his normal skill level. Overall, Kazuha's third Constellation is mildly helpful, but probably not a strong selling point on its own. Kazuha's fourth Constellation is definitely his weirdest. Whenever using his elemental skill, if Kazuha's energy is below 45, he will regenerate 3 or 4 energy, which is easy enough to achieve. Additionally, if Kazuha has less than 45 energy, whenever he glides, he will restore energy as well. In combat situations, I think gliding for energy is usually impractical, and it hinders Kazuha's ability to be a really nice quick swap character. And well, I think C1 just solves Kazuha's energy needs even better than C4 does. If you have an extremely energy hungry team, then you might see some value from this Constellation. but many players probably won't benefit from C4 at all in my opinion. C4 really is the only dud constellation that Kazuha has, but at least this is better than many other 5-star characters. C5 again is the standard constellation that buffs the level of Kazuha's ultimate. This buffs the damage of all 3 parts of his ultimate: the initial slash, the elemental damage over time, and the anemo damage over time. I think it's a nice bump to a DPS Kazuha's damage, but there's really little value here for a support Kazuha. Constellation 6 changes a lot about Kazuha. For 5 seconds after using his skill or his ultimate, Kazuha's normal charged and plunged attacks will gain an anemo infusion. Since cooldowns of these are so low, this basically means Kazuha can have 100% uptime on the infusion. Additionally, his attacks will have their damage increased by 0.2% of his elemental mastery. Overall, this makes Kazuha feel like a different character, almost like he's a short-ranged catalyst user. If he has 1,000 elemental mastery, this means his normals will be infused and will have a 200% damage buff. However, this also has the potential to run into conflicting priorities, since if you have 1,000 elemental mastery, your crit and attack stats are likely not that high to begin with. Additionally, Chungyun and C6 Bennett both can override Kazuha's infusion, which can be good in some situations but might also make stat optimization a little bit trickier. I've heard so many different conflicting things about how to build Constellation 6 Kazuha that I'll refrain from giving suggestions until I test him out myself. Ito is the only 5-star character that I have pulled since getting my C2 Kazuha, which means that I will have plenty of Prima Gems saved to finally be able to C6 my Kazuha. Some potentially fun things that C6 Kazuha can do is abuse Albedo's elevator for a flurry of plunge attacks, or to become the driver for characters like Xingqiu, Yelan, Shangling, or Beidou. Personally, I think Kazuha's first 2 constellations are his most universal and most valuable, which is why I ended up at C2 myself on his original banner. However, his later constellations tend to focus more on increasing his value as a main DPS. Since Kazuha is one of my favorite characters and I've been saving him for a long time, he will be my first 5-star character that I will be able to get to C6. However, if you're pulling for meta reasons, it's probably hard to recommend going past Constellation 2. Overall, I hope you found this video helpful, and I wish you all the best of luck with your future summons. Comment down below to let me know what your summoning plans are or how your wishes went. Thanks, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.